I will be speaking about how we are terraforming SimpleMDM, which is the MDM that we are using. And first of all, I want to start slightly with the motivation that we actually had to do this. So we as a company, as a IT, we started heavily investing into automating everything via the APIs as much as possible, roughly in 2019, 2020. And today we are actually managing over 200 apps via APIs. For this, we are actually using basically everything that you can imagine. It doesn't matter if it is a Python scripts, if it is a low-code, no-code platforms, if it is a GitHub Actions, Dockers, Lambda, Slack, basically everything that we can use. Obviously, every single time we are trying to use like the base possible tool. So let's say if we want to automate something in a Jira or something with a Jira, we will first try to use the Jira as automation. If that doesn't work, we will go one step above. If that doesn't work, one step above. It can end literally writing the whole service for us that will just do a given task. And that's basically what we are doing today, every single day. And another thing that that we wanted to achieve was having basically everything in a code. So every infrastructure. So our Okta is in a code. Our Jira is partially in a code, and so on and so on. Just basically being like a platform team for the IT. And we also wanted to offer automations for other teams. So we were not specific only to the IT or tech, but to procurement, finance, HR, basically everything. So what we are touching most with the SimpleMDM is actually onboarding and offboarding process, the hardware ordering, inventory, monkey, and the exchange of the hardware. These are the things that currently are most valuable for us when it comes to the SimpleMDM, because it's basically providing us the data and enabling us to do some small magic here and there, making onboarding nice for the peoples. We also very aware of what exact hardware we need to get back from the leaving employee, and also informing them, sending them the document that if you will get any hardware from us, you'll basically immediately get an email with a document that will say, oh, you just activated a device, MacBook, this, and this with this serial number. Please sign this, that you are aware of this, blah, blah, blah. Person will sign. If he is leaving, he will get exactly the same document back, which is just saying, thank you very much for returning this device. So we have also somehow like a cover for us that the device is just in use by the given person. And actually to show how much automation we are doing, I took a screenshot from one of our automation tools, which is showing this, where you can see that we have roughly, so the recipes is basically like a given automations. So it's almost 1,000 automations. In a year and a half, we did something like 16 million jobs, and we consume 77 million tasks, which you can count as API calls. So that's roughly the scale where we are working. And now to actually why also terraforming the SimpleMDM. It's just that part of having everything in a code. That's literally the reason, and that's why we did it. At any point when you will do any automation or the Terraform, the first page that you will immediately love will look like this. So the documentation, because you will need to know exactly what a given API is providing to you and how to use it. For this, sometimes with some tools, it's a bit hard to read the documentation because there is maybe none, or very vague, or the documentation doesn't fit exactly what the API is doing. And then with some tools, you will basically end in a loop where you are trying to get the documentation for 6 months, and you will never get a working documentation, and then you will give up. That also happened to us. Where to actually start with something like this, at least for me at the beginning, was just get something like a Postman or HTTP and try to do one call. So at the top, you can see the call. On the right side, you can see the answer. In the middle, and that's the reason why I put it there, you can see the code that you can use. basically small preview snippet that will help you them to automate. It will also maybe introduce you to a new language. When I started writing automation for the SimpleMDM, the Terraform, I started with something like this. This is actually based on the GitHub. So when we were submitting something to the GitHub, basically took it, do the diff, and give us the option to push the changes. But this actually had many issues. One of them is it's very specific to us. And to open source this will be actually very hard because I will need to catch that someone is using, I don't know, Bitbucket, someone is using GitHub, and catch all of this is hard and will take a lot of time. So I basically scraped this. And then I started thinking what I want to build. Did you ever saw this? I went through every single face that is on these images. The reason was very simple. So obviously the standard, when we will speak about the infrastructure as a code, is a Terraform, right? The Terraform is written in a Go. 6 months ago, I basically didn't saw a single line of the Go. So it was a bit challenging because at the beginning, you don't know nothing. And the Terraform is also a huge beast. I was considering many, many times that I will write it in a Python. But that's tricky also because there needs to be a lot of management over catching a lot of variables, just hard. I give up and went to the Terraform. So then we started exactly as I told you. I basically didn't have the previous experiences with the Go. So I started completely from the scratch, didn't know anything. And with a Terraform, obviously, I also never ever write a single Terraform provider. So that was a learning curve that I needed to take, and it took me quite a while. There is also like how the Terraform provider works. It's actually extremely clever wrapper around the API. And it's just solving so many issues that at the beginning I was not even thinking about. When I was still on the Python side, I was just not aware all the quirks that I will need to solve if I don't use a Terraform. With that, the Terraform has basically like two sets of resources. So one of them is the data resource, which is only the something that you are reading from the API and you are not managing it. And you have a resource where you are trying to fully manage it. So that was also something that, let's say, if you know the SimpleMDM, let's say, you have, wow, now I cannot find any, but there is definitely a few of them because, wow, now I really don't remember. But there are some things that you don't want to have as a resource because you will never ever alter it. It's just like a static value that you later on want to use as a variable, basically. Then the another thing that is basically main in a Terraform is just like a plan, apply, destroy. So if you have your Terraform code and you will say plan, it will go to the API, in this case SimpleMDM, fetch it, compare it to whatever you want to, show you the changes. Then you can basically decide if you want to apply it. So it will do all the changes on the API side, or if you want to destroy the given resource. That will obviously completely delete it from the SimpleMDM or the given tool. All of this is basically working on create, read, update, delete. So basically something that most of the APIs should provide anyway. But again, it's not always the case. I will be able to speak about so many tools that don't provide basically any of this, like barely create, and that's already challenging. So this is basically how one set of the provider looks like. So this is for the custom profiles. On the top half, what you can see is just basically a configuration like a translation layer between the JSONs and your configuration and TF state file. And on the bottom half, you can basically see exactly import, which is basically read, create, read, update, and delete. And you need to configure every single one of them, and you need to exactly write what you want to do in every single step. If we will take a look how the read looks like, on the top, you are basically loading your state. So whatever is the state right now, you will load it and you will access all the variables, all the data that are there. And then you will use these ones, because usually you will need to get something like an ID of the given resource to actually fetch it from the API. So in the step 2, you exactly can see how I'm crafting a call where I am using a value of the name of the attribute to actually get the details from the attribute. And then at the end, I'm just getting all the values back and basically writing it to the state. So I refresh the state, so I completed the whole read. And with that read, update, delete, read, create, update, delete, you can basically see it that it's also reflected somehow here. Because if you will have a create, you don't have the read, you have immediately creating of the state. And you need to do this basically for every single thing that you want to manage. And that's somehow really tedious, and how the APIs are different. Let's say in a simple MDM case, it's actually nicely visible how the API was written at least by 2 people, because of the answers that you are getting from the MDM. One of the examples is, let's say, when you are trying to manage the scripts, the script API call for the get, so getting a data, has actually content. So you have only one call and you will get all the data, including the content of the script. If you will do exactly the same for the profiles, which anyway are basically the files, the content is missing and you need to do one extra call to actually get the content of the profile. So you need to catch all of this, and then it's actually really working and really nice. This is basically example how your plan will look like, how it will show what you are adding, exactly to which devices, what is changing, even what will be removed, and so on and so on. If nobody saw a Terraform, the step into it is actually relatively hard, I would say, because there is just many things that the documentation, honestly, for most of the Terraform providers is sketchy, I would say. And that's definitely, even on my side, something that I should improve, because currently it's a bare bone and I definitely should do something there. So this is actually something that we are right now supporting. So when it was the apps that I didn't do as resources, because I didn't want to deal with reading the binaries. So that is something that I have only as a data sources. So this is all the data sources and the resources that we are currently providing to, like, having an option to manage. With these ones, with some of them, there are, let's say, there are some small issues. With 3 of them, there is issue that the API is not providing all the data back. And now that's something that if you're running something as an infrastructure, as a code, you should not touch it. So everything is in a code, and you should not go to the UI and click and change something in a UI. It's not because it will stop working or like any other reasons technically. It's just like that mindset that your code should run the infrastructure, not that you will go and you will add the host or you will add a profile or do something. The code itself should run it. So even if there are these issues, or currently there are these 3 issues, it's not stopping us to actually use the Terraform provider, because my plan is to remove all the writes and make everyone read only. So everything will be in the code. We will nicely run it in our CI/CD pipeline. We will have a 4 eyes principle, and it will just work. I hope so. And that was actually end of the presentation. And I actually wanted to show you how the Terraform itself looks like, because when I was actually preparing it today, I noticed that my QA skills were actually terrible. Because I will explain you the error when I will face it. Because, yeah, I got somehow stopped. So actually, this is the main file that you will always have in a Terraform. It's basically defining which provider you are using, on which version, and whatever are base parameters. Let's say for the SimpleMDM, the only one that you need is the API key. I made a small thing for maybe a future for the SimpleMDM that you can specify the host. Currently, if you don't specify the host, it will take the base host from the SimpleMDM. But if the SimpleMDM in the future will actually decide that they will maybe provide endpoints only for a given company, so let's say we will have freenow.simplemdm.com, you will be able to specify that host. And I imported one of the devices. It's actually this device because I forgot to bring the second one. And you can see how I have only basically two names. One is the name, one is the device name. In a SimpleMDM, it's a bit confusing what is what. The name is visual name in a SimpleMDM. The device name is actual host name. And I have the device group. Now, if I will actually go to my terminal and I will just do the plan, you will see that it's trying to refresh the state and it will start shouting on me because there is so many attributes that we are using that I obviously didn't specify. So that's one of the issues when you are coming from like not using a Terraform to using a Terraform, that you will have a lot of moving parts that you will need to fix. I was actually thinking about this when I was writing all of this, so there is actually super easy fix. You just need to use a Terraform properly. So we will actually slightly change our lifecycle, and we will just simply decide that we want to ignore a few parts. So you can, in a configuration, you can say basically what you want to ignore, that you don't want to manage it. So if, let's say, we will take a look back in my terminal, you can see that we are specifying Okta department, display name, and etc. That's a data that are coming from our Okta because our Okta is tied to the Workday where all these data are sitting. And basically because we know that these data will never be managed by the Terraform, they will always be managed by Workday and Okta integration, and then actually our updating via different means. We will simply don't manage it and we want to ignore it. Same as I want to ignore the device name and the name because I just don't want to change it right now because that's also part of the different automation. So I basically said that, yeah, for all the attributes, I don't want to manage them, and I want to have only the name and the device name. I also don't want to manage it. So now, did I save it? No, I didn't. Now, obviously, if I will do the plan again, there are no errors. Everything is fine. Because it's matching exactly the infrastructure with our ignores, which is good. And now let's say I will just add one profile. I just want to rename the file. So I just created a small profile, give it a normal config, and we will just try to put it into the SimpleMDM. And I will also try to put that profile on my device. So now if we will do a Terraform plan, it will actually tell us that it will create a whole new profile. And when this profile will be created, it will actually add the profile to my device. It's basically what it is saying here. So this part is how it is creating new resource. And here you can see that it will add a custom profile and the ID will be known after the apply. So we can do apply. Okay, yes, I am sure it will work fine as expected. Ta-dam, ta-dam. And I get an error. So, why I get this error? Because enrollment URL is not present on the devices that were automatically enrolled by the DEP, and I didn't count with this. So in the future, I will obviously need to change this, but now I know that I received my profile because my mouse is very big. So that's actually basically proving that the call was successful. The provider just didn't get the data that it was expecting back. It will be easy fix to do this, and honestly, there will be more. With a QA, I did the tests. I just didn't catch this possibility. Don't know why. Maybe it was simply because in a tenant where I am running a tests, I never ever had the device enrolled from a DEP. So that's maybe the reason, not sure. We'll definitely fix it for the future. Now, let's say I just want to get rid of this profile because, yeah, this mouse is just too big. I will just comment this. Let's do the apply again. It will again read the whole configuration from the SimpleMDM. Now it will tell me that, okay, the custom profiles will be basically removed. I can just click yes. It will again start modifying everything, or everything that the device. It will again shout on me, yeah, I know. And in a few seconds, my mouse should be again the normal mouse, which will be finally amazing again. So actually, what are our plans, like our internal plans, is simply to have the whole SimpleMDM, every single profile, every single attribute, every single group, every assignment of the groups to the assignment groups, profiles, scripts, and so on, everything having in a Terraform. We can already see how declarative management will be pain in the ass to actually manage at the beginning. It will be complicated, and I hope that this will actually help us keep it, like, let's say, in order, because if we will just be clicking randomly in a UI, it will be terrible, because we have something like 100 profiles, and right now if we have like 40 groups, just if we are creating one profile and we need to go to 40 groups and basically assign it by the hand, I don't want to do it with the 100 profiles for the declarative management. That will be terrible. So that was also a huge motivation why to do this. And that is basically the end of my talk. And I hope that the people that are using a SimpleMDM will try to use the provider and will let me know, because there will be definitely mistakes that I made. There is exactly one. And yeah, that's it.